Hey Book Dragons, welcome back to my channel. It's time for part 3 of my bookshelf tour. Here we go. So I know you've all been anxiously awaiting the third part of my bookshelf tour. And if you haven't, if this is your first time watching my bookshelf tour, welcome back. Make sure you don't miss out on my other bookshelf tour videos. I'll leave them linked in the cards at the end of the video, as well as in the description below. And eventually, once all these are done, I will have a bookshelf tour playlist, so you can check those out. And if you're really ambitious, my old bookshelf tour will be on that playlist as well. And you can see my old bookshelf tour and how weird I was. Well, I'm still weird, but I guess I was more awkward back then. But anyway, so now back to the business at hand. This is bookshelf number 3 on my bookshelf, and we're going to get right to it. Make sure you subscribe and all that good stuff so you don't miss out on these videos. And here we go. So, the first book on this bookshelf tour is Murder on the Orient Express. Now, I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan. I love mysteries in general. So, Murder on the Orient Express is one of my absolute favorites. Hercule Poirot is a brilliant character, brilliantly written, entertaining, quirky. I mean, just, you can't get better. I like Agatha Christie's other characters as well, but Hercule Poirot is probably one of my favorites. I'm going to set that right there. And while I'm at it, my book, Talondore's Guest, is on this shelf because I haven't found a place to put it yet. So it's here as well. So there's my book. And then I have the Lightning Thief series, or I should say Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. I always call it the Lightning Thief series. This is one of my kids' favorites. They both probably read it at least 2 times. I read the first 2 books and I enjoyed them. I haven't finished the series, so I should probably do that at some point. In fact, I'll probably have to reread the books and start from the beginning. So, but great series. It is middle grade, but I enjoy some middle grade stuff on occasion. You know, I'm not above reading middle grade. There we go, and I'll put this back there. And let's start with the books that are stacked on top. Yes, I do occasionally stack books on top. I'm going to start with the Robert Langdon series by Dan Brown. It is a mystery thriller, specifically focusing on symbology and archaeology, which I think is kind of really cool. So this is the first 3 books. I do have the 4th book on Kindle, but these are the first 3. You've got Angels and Demons, which is the first book. The Da Vinci Code is the second book, and that's probably the one that has been most popular and you probably already heard of because of all the hype surrounding it when it first came out. And then The Lost Symbol is the 3rd book in the series. It's just really good. So I highly recommend this series to anyone. And so there we go. So we're going to set these down there for just a moment. And I have The Princess Bride by William Goldman. Now, I've not read this book yet. I'm a huge fan of the movie. I've watched it who knows how many times. Probably an inconceivable amount of times. And I never read the book, which also is inconceivable. So yeah, I eventually plan to read it. I've heard that the movie is actually better than the book, but I'm sure the book is still good. And so yeah, The Princess Bride is one of my books that I own. And then I also have The Stand by Stephen King. Now you can see I have a bookmark in it. I did start it. I did not DNF it. I just postponed it a little bit because it's such a thick guy that I just wasn't ready for such a dense book. I started reading it back in 2020, and 2020 was kind of an awkward year to be reading a book about a pandemic. So, yeah, I will eventually get back to reading this. All right, so let's set those there. I know I'm really scattered when I do these. Let's set that there. Bear with me. Let's start from this end. Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. One of my absolute favorite books. He is a absurdist poet, and I like absurdity. I am a rather absurd chap myself. And just some really quirky stuff in here, guys. One of my favorites in here is the extra sticky peanut butter sandwich. About a king who loved peanut butter sandwiches, but he got one that was so sticky one time that his mouth was stuck shut, which was probably a good thing. But yeah, just such a fun book. My kids love it. I love it. It's great for all ages. Good stuff. All right, and then we have Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this is a collection of the short stories in the Cosmere universe. And so you've got some Mistborn-related short stories in here. You've got some Stormlight Archive short stories in here. There's a short story in here that's part of the Elantris universe as well. And then you've got some unrelated but are set in some of the same worlds in the Cosmere that other books are written in. So just really, really good. I've read all of it except the Mistborn short stories because there's some things I don't want spoiled yet. And I've heard there are spoilers that I should avoid until I've read at least the first book in the second era of Mistborn. So once I get to that, I will be reading that. All right. Warbreaker is the next one by Brandon Sanderson. This is set in the Cosmere universe. It is a magic system that is based on color. And just a really fascinating magic system. It's also based on breath work. So, depending on how many breaths you have, showcases how much power you have, or how much magic you can wield. So it's really interesting. There is a second book coming out for it, but it's a standalone right now. So I highly recommend reading this one before you get into the third and fourth books of the Cosmere, because there are some tie-ins. Alright, well, if I can get this here, there we go. Alright, let's look at these. I have the 3 original books in the Mistborn trilogy: The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages. Just a fantastic series. It's not my favorite in the Cosmere, but I really did enjoy it thoroughly. The magic system is based on ingesting different metals into your body to perform different effects. So if you are a Mistborn, you can wield all the powers. If you were a Misting, you can only use 1 or maybe at most 2 different metals for certain effects. So really well thought out. Brandon plans his magic systems intricately. And the first book especially is kind of fun because it involves a heist. The other books have elements of that as well, but not as much as the first book. So, fun stuff. All right, Elantris. This is Brandon's first published novel. Not the first one he wrote, but it's the first one that he actually got published. It's set in a really cool world. The people of Elantris at one point had been very godlike, and then something happened, and they got a strange deformative disease. And the magic system in this is really, really cool, based on drawing runes in the air and different things like that. A lot of fun. And it gets a lot of hate in the book community, which I'm surprised at, because it's actually one of my favorites. But maybe it's not for everybody. Not everybody likes it as well as some of his other books. And it's not my absolute favorite of his book, but it is one of my favorites. So, there we go. Elantris. Alrighty. And we are going to do this, let's see. Boom, 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 and kaboom. Alright, so this is The Deathgate Cycle by Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman. It is based on the premise that the world as it once was has been sundered into 4 different realms by a cataclysmic magic event, and the patron Haplo is traversing the different realms to learn about them and secretly win them over for his master, or at least allow his master to get in and conquer the different realms. So it's a really interesting premise, very unique. If you're familiar with Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman, they wrote the first few Dragonlance novels based on D&D, and this, I think, is one of my favorite series of all time. I have not finished it yet, but I'm getting there. I've read the first 3 books, Dragonwing, Elven Star, and Fire Sea. I need to get on to Serpent Mage next. And these are just fantastic, folks. Yeah, it's there's a rune-based magic, tattoos written on the skin of the patrons and the sartans that invoke the magic. So just a really fun series, and I'm as you can see, I'm going to drop these, so I'm just going to set those there. See how haphazard I am? Oh my goodness. Alrighty, so we will set that right there for right now. I will fix it, I promise. I need to make my shelf look pretty again. But the last book I want to talk about is Darkover, First Contact by Marion Zimmer-Bradley. This was given to me by a friend, and I think Marion Zimmer-Bradley wrote a series of Arthurian novels, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know much about her, but this was given to me, and the premise sounds pretty interesting. So I eventually hope to read this. I don't know when. My TBR is very long, so I will eventually get to it, but it's not high priority. And that is that. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of my bookshelf tour. Shelf number 3. Next time I will be doing shelf number 4. And maybe if there's time I'll do shelf number 5. I haven't quite decided yet. Shelf number 5 is not on this one. It's on this little shelf next door to it. So we shall see. If you're enjoying this series, click a like and help support my channel. Share with your friends if they enjoy bookshelf tours. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. Make sure that you're reading more books. Have fun, guys. Bye.